All right, guys. So yes, MC, I'll definitely give you time during code review to let everyone who wasn't here hear your idea, because obviously I love the idea.
Sure.
Um, I think it's awesome. The more you guys practice together, the better, in my opinion. So yeah, you'll discuss that during code review if you want, because it's a great
Cool.
idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then yeah, so what are we doing today? Functions, right? So it's going to feel very similar to yesterday, except not at all. It'll feel similar in that you're building this multifunctional application again. So the requirements feel very similar, but the way we're going to solve it is using functions. So it'll be very, very different. Um, and just to, you guys are pretty used to this pattern by now, but like, okay, I want to run sum, right? So the first number is 2, second number is 1, and we see 3, right? Um, the new twist here, we're adding a little bit of complexity, is that it doesn't exit the application. It asks you again what you would like to perform. And so we can do convert, which I don't even remember. I think minutes to seconds, maybe. Oops. Convert. Oh, okay. So 1 minute is 60 seconds. So there we go. So quite a few of these functions to write for sure. So you should be a little bit busy today. Um, the cool new twist though is that you have to quit. So I type quit, press OK, and it will tell me how many times you've used this application. So I'm not doing this just to be complex and complicated. We're we're on the path to building a game application. So this is kind of like a game loop. We're at the very beginnings of that. So the game keeps going until you quit, right? Um, wow, already tomorrow we're gonna work on the project for the week. It's really fun, in my opinion. Um, you might have been spoiled already by seeing it in the screen share, but I'm not going to announce it till tomorrow. But I think it's fun, and I hope you guys have fun with it. And this is really good practice gearing up towards that. Okay. Any questions on the overview of the assignment today? All right, we're going to obviously build something very similar today. So if I can turn your attention to the left, the code here, we're going to warm up with asking the user what applications they want to perform. And one of the options will be to multiply. And if you give two numbers, 2 and 2, 2 times 2 is 4, right? But first things first, let's reset this. So first things first, I just want a prompt that says what? What app would you like to run? And in parentheses, right now, all I have is multiply. And we'll add to this as we go on. But first things first, how do I get a box to show up to ask the user this question? Calypso, how can I get this box to show up?
You put prompt,
Yeah.
yeah, parentheses, and then put in
Yeah, and then I'll
quotes
just
what you
copy
want.
this or not. Oh, there's a line break. Yeah. Okay, so I run this now and I get a prompt box, right? But what do I want to do to the input from the user? SMC?
Uh,
Or
oh,
Calypso,
sorry.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say you can make the prompt a variable, so like let answer equal prompt,
Sure.
and then it'll save it there.
Yeah. Um, I might call this answer's fine, I guess. It's kind of hard to
Fonts or
name that
anything
one.
you want.
Maybe app? I don't know. I don't love that either. I can't think of, even preparing for this lecture, I couldn't think of something I love for this name, for this variable. Anyway, yeah. So we do that now, and now we're saving the input. And to do a sanity check to make sure that all works, if I type in here Max, my name, what will I see in the console.log, SMC?
You will see your name, Max.
Yep. Yeah. So just a little check that everything's working, right? But what do we want to do? If the user says multiply, well, I want to return, well, there's a couple things I have to do, right? So if they say multiply, I then want to say, what is the first number? And then I want to say, what is the second number? And I want to save those both in variables. So help me out with that, Semsi. How can I do that?
Okay. You can say let first number prompt. What is the first number? But also, I would put a plus sign before prompt because otherwise it's not going to be
beautiful.
a number.
To convert it from a string to a number. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'll save you the time and just copy this one, second number.
So does that plus sign only convert stuff to a number, or is it like?
As far as I know, used in this way, it converts a string to a number. Yeah.
Okay.
But am I willing to say it's the only thing it ever does? I don't know. Not sure. All right. So we have first number and we have second number, right? Now, oh, sorry. We only want to do these prompts if the user puts multiply as the answer to to what app do you want to run. So that's my explanation in English. How can I start to convert that into code? I only want to run line 6 and 7 if the user puts multiply as the answer. Lin Jae, what do you think? Yeah, so if the user puts multiply, then I want to run these 2 lines of code.
I don't know. I'm still learning. I don't know.
Okay, no worries. You can just say no. It's fine. We'll go right to the next person. Redo?
You would use an if else statement. So if and then parentheses.
Okay.
And then you could put inside if prompt is exactly equal to.
Ooh, not prompt. Prompt is
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, if app is exactly equal to, and then a string multiply.
Yeah.
And then curly braces, and you put those prompts inside.
Yeah, exactly right. So now when I refresh this, prompts are so annoying to use. Well, it'll be fun next week when we don't use them anymore. Okay, so now if I I'm going to try to be a little tricky, right? I'm going to try to put Ketzer in here. So what will happen with this application if I put Ketzer in?
It exits out.
Not really exit outs, but just there's no more code to run, right?
Yeah.
But if I put multiply, what should we now see?
You will see what is the first number is.
Yeah.
What is the first number? Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I can put 12, and then I can put 2, right? And then it exits out because we're not doing anything more here. But what should we do? What's the next logical step for this application? Farhan?
So since we're doing multiply, we would multiply both numbers in maybe a new variable.
Sure.
So maybe let, I forgot the word for it. I guess answer is one word. Or
Product would be technically right.
Product, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, product. Let product equal first number times second number.
Uh-huh. Very nice. And we could console.log that to make sure it works, but let's assume that it works. It's kind of simple logic here. What should we do next, Farhan?
So after that, I guess we can show an alert to say this is the result.
Yeah, I like that. This is the result. And then how do I show the result?
So I don't know if we went over it. We can either concatenate or something called template literal.
Let's concatenate and then circle back to template literals because I love template literals and it's time to introduce them. So without template literals, how do I show this result?
So after the quote, you put a plus and then you just put the variable product.
Very nice. Okay, let's test this one, right? So whoops, I forgot we have to say multiply first. So 2 times 2, and we should see this is the result, 4. But I feel like we can improve this language a little bit. So what if we said something like, first number times second number equals product. Will that work? Oh, I forgot a plus. So this really spells out what's going on, right, to the user. So let's try that. So 2 times, oops, did it again. All right, 2, second number is 2. And that's kind of nice, right? Looking, 2 times 2 equals 4. The problem is this is super ugly looking. So we have these things called template literals. And what are template literals, Farhan?
So template literals is a way for us to kind of put things together in a much nicer way and using variables in quotes.
Yeah, we can inject the values of variables, even if they're not strings, it turns out. Hence the word interpolation, the fancy word, which is another name for what we're doing here. Inject the values of variables into strings. So we can rewrite this much nicer. And you want to try, Farhan, since it was your idea? How can we rewrite that same thing? I want the equivalent thing, but using template literals.
Sure. So in the alert, and we're going to use something called backticks.
Yeah.
And then, so to use a variable, I like to call it cash money curlies, but it's basically a $sign and the curly bracket.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
so this is how we inject the variable into the string. Yep.
Yeah, and then you just put the variable in this case, which is first number. And then after the curly bracket, you just continue the string by just putting the multiplication sign and then another space and then cash money curlies again.
Cash money curlies. I like it. Yeah.
With the second variable, so second number. And then continuing the string equals, and then same thing again, the $curly sign with the product variable.
Yeah. So this reads so much nicer, right? And let's see if it works though, which is important. So let me refresh this. Oops. I'm going to do that this entire lecture. So 2 and 3, 2 times 3 equals 6. So I'm a huge fan of template literals. I really think you guys should use them a lot. I think they read very nicely. Questions on template literals. You'll see them every day from here on out, probably.
What's a backtick?
It's a new kind of quote, I guess. So instead of a quote or a single quote, we have the top left of your keyboard. You've probably never even seen it or noticed.
Oh, it is that one.
There's
Okay.
a new symbol called a backtick.
Yeah, it should be right next to like the number 1, in my keyboard at least.
Yeah. Other questions on this? So it's a normal string, right? Except we can inject the cash money curlies variables right in there. We don't have to do the plus. Okay. So this is the same as yesterday, but the new thing that I want to introduce, I want to take out all this logic and put it into what we call a function, right? So I want to create a function called multiply, which has all the same logic. So let's do that, and then we'll talk about, well, what are functions anyway? So if I do function multiply, and then take out all this logic, and then here, I can call it, and we should have an identical logic in our application. So save that, do multiply, 3 and 3 should be 9, and there we go. So now let's break this down though, right? So I guess the first question is, what is a function? Sadiq, what did you get about functions from the pre-work?
Functions are like a black box that we use.
A black box?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like in programming, we have a concept called as abstraction. Like we don't know how console.log works, but we still use it because it's a pre-written function the JavaScript provides us.
Okay.
Like that, when we have to do stuff repeatedly in our code and we don't want to write it every time, we can put it in a function.
Yeah.
And reuse the function.
Yeah. So repeatable is going to be the first key thing, which is very similar to the topic yesterday of for loops and while loops. But how is it different than a for loop or a while loop, Sadiq?
Like we can write the code once and reuse it again and again. But if it's a for loop, let's say I have to print 1 to n numbers 100 times in my code. I have to write like for loops 100 times, and it's just going to be hectic for us. Instead, what I can do is I can write a function that can print from 1 to 100 and can reuse that function 100 times. Just write it once and reuse it again and again.
Yeah, but I think the key difference is you reuse it kind of on demand in your code throughout the code, which is different than a for loop or a while loop. So it's available wherever you want later on in your code. As long as you define it once, you can then invoke it. So we have very important language now dealing with functions. This is going to be called a function definition or function declaration, I guess technically. And over here, when we run a function, the fancy name is invocation, if I spelled that right. And keeping these straight is very important. When you define a function, it doesn't automatically run. It's just available later on. To run it, you have to name it and then use the parentheses. Functions also can have inputs and outputs. but I don't think we're gonna need that today. But we'll see. But I don't believe we'll need it today. But we certainly will need it every other day. What questions are there on the highest level overview of functions?
Is that the only way to name a function?
No, definitely not. But for today it is. Because it's, complicated enough without going through the 4 different ways. Although I think I gave you guys a pre-work on arrow functions. So, and those will be important, but we can hold off today on that.
I have a question.
Yeah, Izzy.
For the if statement, can we just put that inside of the function, or is it just better to put it outside with the invocation outside?
You can do whatever you want. Functions can definitely include if statements, but for today, as we add more, what is it called? Our functions uses or utilities, I guess. We're going to do this structure because it'll make sense.
Okay.
But you absolutely can put if statements in functions. Yeah.
So if you put if statement inside the function, so when you call it, modify still have to be out of function, right? To be called, or you can.
Yeah, you can't. So if we didn't have this, this would be this would actually be an example of recursive function, but this won't be call itself yet. You would have to also have this. But this is recursion, and we're not going to cover that today. Yeah. Other questions? Okay. Yeah, so that's the first objective is done, right? The second objective, did I get rid of the example? That was silly. Oh, it's right here. Second thing I wanted to do next. Oh, sorry. So let's say we did some on this example application, and that's great. And now I want to quit because I'm done. I can type quit and exit this application. And weirdly, it says 3 times. I think that's a bug or something because we have it running maybe. I don't know. Anyway, the idea is I want this application to keep on running. So if I run multiply, I want it to ask me again, to prompt me again what I want to run. So this is cool. We haven't seen this pattern before yet, but opens the class. Anybody have a brainstorm of how to accomplish that?
I would put the whole thing in a giant if else. So like everything in the if and then the else is they write quit and then quit it.
Okay, but if we did that, how many times would it run?
Oh, it'd have to be in a loop.
Yeah, I want it to run forever.
Mm.
So what loop did we learn last time that's very good at running forever until we tell it not
While
to?
loop.
Yeah.
While.
So let's go ahead and make a while loop that just runs forever. So while true, right? And this is dangerous because this is an infinite loop. What should we throw in here? What pieces of our code need to go in here?
Maybe a break.
Yeah, we will have a break eventually.
At some point.
But I'm talking about the code I've already written I should put in here.
The first prompt.
Yeah, so I want to put this line in here because I want that to run forever or again and again and again. Does the function need to go in here? I almost gave it away by the tone of my voice and then I corrected. What do we think? No, it does not. Yeah, the function can be called from outside the loop. It's happy there. I guess it wouldn't hurt putting it in there, but it's not needed. And then lines 21 through 24, do they need to run again and again and again?
I think once you do the prompt, wouldn't it just run that again so you don't need it in the loop?
Let's try, right? There's no harm in trying. So let's run this. App is not defined. Oh, well, already we have a little bit of a problem. Speaking of scope, app only exists in the curly braces here. So this logic can't run. So we actually do need to throw it in the loop. So let's try to run this, see how this looks right now. So we want to run multiply. And we want to do 1 times 3. Great. 3. I press OK. I want it to run again, right? And it does. 2 times 4, 8. And run it again, and on and on and on. That's great. But I press, I'm done, right? And I press cancel, and uh-oh, I'm stuck forever in the matrix, right? So let's brainstorm this. How can we quit?
Do we put a else if conditional for when putting another option in the prompt for quit, and then putting the break in that?
Yeah. So we can just do if the user said quit, to use the keyword we learned yesterday, break, which breaks out of our while loop. And then here, for good user experience, let's remind them that they have the option to quit. Okay? And then refresh this. Oh, it didn't refresh, right? Oh, because it's an infinite loop. Let me kill it and run it again. Okay, I want to run multiply 2 times 2. Did I put in 0? By accident? Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. That's fine. And now I'm done. And I say quit, and it quits. We're not in an infinite loop anymore. But there's one detail from the application, the solution application, and you guys tell me what that is. So I'm going to run sum and say 1 and 2 is 3. But when I quit, watch what it tells me. You have used this application 2 times, which technically could be improved, right? Because unless you're counting the quit as in using it, we ran it once, really. But anyway, let's brainstorm that functionality. How can we get that working?
Max, instead of the break statement, could we have used maybe a variable like let continue equals true, and then down at the else if place, we could say else if quit then is
absolutely
basically.
And this use of a Boolean is called a flag. Yeah. So if you guys prefer that, totally fine. Yeah.
Are they the same?
I mean, like, they're not the same, but the app will function the exact same. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, no, I guess technically, if we have a break here, it immediately breaks, and here it doesn't. It goes to the end and then back up here and then breaks. So it is a little different, and that might be important later on, depending.
Oh yeah, that was my question, but I just couldn't ask properly.
Yeah, because of that, let's actually keep it simple today. As simple as we can. Maybe we'll come back to this logic though. But I like it like this. It just feels simpler to me. Okay, back to that count though. Any ideas how we can, when the user quits, tell them how many times they used the app?
Should we do a global variable? of count.
Of count?
Or yeah, I guess count. Or number of times count is used.
That's a little long though. Yeah, let's do count. And what do we set it equal to?
0.
Yeah. And then what do we do?
And then in the if-else statement, when it's chosen as multiply, sorry, not else if, the if statement, when it's chosen as multiply, we can do count equals count plus
1. But say we have a lot of different functionality, because we are going to eventually. Do we only want the count to be increased if it's multiplying? Well, we can deal with that later, I guess.
I guess we can do it outside of the if statement and just do a count plus plus or count equals count plus 1.
Okay, yeah, cool. Now, how when the user exits, how do I tell them how many times they've used the app? What?
Put alerts, and you want to do the practice sign and dollar sign. Okay.
Well, I'm going to say you have used the app. And now how do I do the cash money curly to inject?
Dollar sign curly base count.
Very nice. Times, yeah. Okay, so let's test this, right? I don't trust this. Let me refresh. Oh, is this an infinite loop? Okay, multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. Very nice, but I want to quit. You have used the app 2 times. That's kind of a lie, right? I'd rather it say 1. I think that's more a better user experience.
Can we have a better placement of line 27 then?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Where do you want to put it?
After the if statement.
Yeah. I think it's better here. Yep. So now, well, let's just directly quit. What happens then? You have used the app 0 times. That makes sense to me. Yeah. All right. Any questions on that? We sped through a little quick on really important concepts. Kind of this game loop.
If you just canceled out of it like the original one, does it give you any kind of input or just cancels you out straight away?
Let's see. Because what if the user clicks cancel? That's your question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So actually, what do you predict will happen, Calypso?
I just think it'll close it out, honestly. I don't think it'll give you like a...
So it hits here, this if statement. Is this true or false, this expression?
Oh, that's true. It'll say you have used the app, and it should say 0 times.
Well, no, I think this first one. So remember, if they click cancel, what is the value for app?
Is it null or something?
Yeah, close enough. It's undefined, I think.
Oh, undefined.
So is app equal to undefined?
Mm-mm.
Is app equal to quit, the string quit?
Oh, no. So it'll just loop forever.
Yeah. So we have an infinite loop. But we certainly can improve this line right here.
So if you put or, no, because then if you put or, oh, you still want it to say you've used it 0 times.
Yep.
That's true. Or app equals undefined.
And I think we can even clean it up a little more with how I like to do that. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to click cancel. Let me refresh this. It might have gotten weird. So I'm going to go direct.
Is undefined need to be string or no?
Which line?
No, because you're not entering it. It's not a string variable. It's like a
data,
she's asking if define needs to be string.
Oh, no. Yeah, definitely not.
Okay. Thank you.
Ooh, this is a problem.
I think it needs to be no, not undefined.
Yeah, I guess it's not undefined. So with that being said, there's an easier way to catch null, undefined, any falsely value.
Not app.
Yeah, so we can bang the app variable. Yep. So now refresh this. Or, should I try to refresh?
Did you save it in your
Yeah, there's no
JavaScript?
dot.
Okay.
So I click cancel. Okay.
There.
It's just, yeah, it's finicky, the prompt box, right? Yeah, any questions on that? So that's a nice improvement. So the user can either quit or click cancel. Okay, next objective is count occurrences of a letter. So if the user puts in David and the character D, well, let me show this as an example. So if they put in count occurrences as the command, I want to see what is the string, what is the character, the character D appears two times in the word David. So that's the output I want from this application that we're going to call count occurrences. So a lot of work we have to do, right? But who can help me get started? What's some of the first steps we need to do to get the ball rolling? Ellery, any idea? What's like the first steps we need to do?
Can you go up to the first block that the first thing we need to do, the drawing thing?
Oh, the drawing thing, sorry.
So
yeah.
you had a middle block, if I can. Okay. So are we gonna ask the user for a name, or
exactly, yeah. So we're gonna follow this same pattern, but build on it.
Okay.
So what do I want to? I'm gonna call this count occurrences.
Okay.
So what should I put here?
So we can do a prompt. We can. Oh, there we need to. What would you like? You can call it count occurrences, or.
Yep. So I'm going to put that here as the option. And then here, do I have to manipulate this block of code?
Well, you're going to have to, if it's not multiplied, it needs to, so if app is equal to count occurrences.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, else if, yeah.
Yeah. And if it is equal to count occurrences that they typed in, what do we want to do, Maureen? So if the user did type in, oh, I have a bug here. This needs to be a string. So if they do type in count occurrences, what do we want to do? And it's going to be very similar to what we did for multiply.
I didn't see the prompt that comes out when you choose currencies, but that's what we should put.
One more time.
We say let app equals to prompt to the. I didn't see the prompt that comes in when you.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good idea. So like let string equals prompt, what is the string? But I don't want to write the logic here. I want to call a function that runs the logic, just like we did for multiply. So here I'm going to actually put count occurrences again and invoke a function we haven't created. And now I'm going to create a function. Yeah. Ellery, go for it since you're on the ball. How can I get started creating this function?
My mic was on and I'm like talking to myself.
Sorry.
So how do I, it's called stubbing out the function. How do I name this function and declare it?
You just write function and then the name of it with the parentheses.
Yes. So function count occurrences, and I'll do the parentheses and curly braces. And let's take a pause, right? And let's just say console.log hi right now, just to see if everything's working. Because we wrote a lot of...
missing a semicolon after the invocation for that. Oh, no.
Oh, Prettier puts it in.
Never mind.
We don't deal with semicolons. That's Prettier's domain, right? Okay, I'd like to run count occurrences. This might be the old one. I'd like to run count occurrences. And then I'd like to quit. In the console, we see hi. So this is wired up correctly. Now we need the actual logic that I talked about here. So how do I ask the user for, I guess we should say the word, right? String is kind of if we're making this for a developer, I guess. Daniel, how do we ask them what is the word?
You could declare a variable let word equal prompt. What is the word? And then
And what do I have to change for character?
You could put like let. What is the, or let letter probably makes more sense. Let letter equal prompt. What is the letter you're looking for? Yeah.
I love this new spell checker. Okay, what is the word? What is the character? Very nice. Now the actual hard part, right? Any brainstorm ideas on how we can count? So we want to count the occurrences, well, you guys know, right, of the letter in the word. Yeah, this is the actual interesting part, right? The logic. So open to the class. Any suggestions here?
You want to create a counter variable?
Create a what variable?
A count variable to store the number of occurrences that the letter appears in.
And what should we start it at?
1.
Do we
Zero.
have a letter yet?
0.
No.
Yeah, I think 0. And then what do you think from there, Monica?
We want a for loop.
Yeah, so we want to iterate through the word one character at a time. So we can use a for loop. And how do we set that up?
Let I equal 0. And then since you want to iterate through the word, it's going to be I less than word.length. I++.
And for a sanity check, how can I console.log each letter one at a time?
Console.log word at index I.
Beautiful. And beautiful technical language. Okay, let's try to run this and see if it'll work. Count occurrences. The word is David. And we want to... we're counting the letters D, but that's not going to happen yet. What we want to see in the console is DAVID. And we do. So our logic is good. Okay, but now how do we check each character one at a time and increase our count if we encounter the character we're looking for? Or we called it letter, right? So the letter we're looking for.
You want to use an if statement to compare the letter and the index at word I.
Yeah, so how do I write that in code?
So if word at index I is equal to the letter, then you want to increase your counter variable.
Yeah, and then finally, what's a good message to the user?
letter what is it? Letter appeared, or what do you letter, and you want to use the string literal, right?
Yeah, I'm using it right now, the template literal. Yep. So I want to say like letter D appeared 2 times in the word David. That's what I want my output to be.
Okay, so let's see, letter, what letter?
So how do I inject the value of the variable letter into this template literal?
Well, you're missing the $sign and the curly braces, right?
Oh, I actually want the word letter. So I wanted to say, or let me write out what I want because it's confusing. Letter D appeared 2 times in the word David. Yep.
Oh, okay, so letter, and then you want the template literal letter, and then appear 2 times in the word, and then again the template literal for word.
Yeah, we don't want to hard code 2 times. Why not?
I'm not sure.
Well, how many times is M appear in Monica?
Oh, so you want the count, right?
Yes.
So the count variable in a template literal, and then you're going to do the same for the word David.
Yeah, and the variable here is word.
Word.
Yeah. Let's run this, see if that did anything. And I can delete this console.log. Okay. Count occurrences. The word is Monica. There's no repeating letters, so we'll just do an M. Letter M appeared 1 times in the word Monica. All right. Questions on that? That was a little tricky, a little more tricky. And this pattern of like iterating through a string is going to be very important for the remainder of the course.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I know that we're used count inside 2 separate blocks, so like they're in 2 separate scopes.
Yeah.
But is it bad practice to use the same variables even if they're in like a function and another function?
No. So this gets into the complexities of scope. We're accessing this variable, and we're allowed to do that because we're within the scope of this count. So the scope of this count is these curly braces. And right here, we're within that. So nested down, like the children can get access to the parent scope, but not vice versa. So in this line, well, if I had student equals Izzy, if I try to console.log student here, what do we think, class? What?
It would be undefined.
Yeah, I think it'd be a reference error because Izzy exists in this scope. So we don't have access to it here. But count we do have access to because it's in this scope.
Would the count be an issue if you put the other count above it? Then would it like try to pull that into the function?
Yeah, so it's always going to look, so right here, it's going to look for the closest parent, right? Well, first it's going to look in its own scope, and then it's going to go to its parent, which is actually this, and then it's going to go to its grandparent, and it finds it. It'll check its closest relative. So just like you, if you have to ask money, maybe, you'll ask your parents, right, first? Or I guess in this example, you would ask your siblings first, which maybe is true. Actually, probably not, but whatever. you'd ask your siblings, and then your parents, and then your grandparents, and you wouldn't think to ask your great grandparents, right? They're probably not alive, maybe, but yeah. So children can always ask advice from their parents, but parents aren't getting advice from their children. And
So
same thing
it
with
wouldn't matter if
variables.
you like flip the stuff on the bottom to be on top. It would still do the same thing regardless.
Flip the what?
Like if you know how like the code, like it's function right now and then it has the count under it. Even if you move the count and the while above
yeah,
it,
the
it still would
ordering
be the same.
This type of function is called a function declaration, and where it is in your code doesn't matter because it does something called hoisting. But we'll learn about arrow functions where that's, or actually function expressions where that's not the case. The ordering does matter. But for today, it's easy. Yeah. Okay, that's scope. That's really good scope information, but yeah, totally separate topic. We completed this one, right? So yeah, I was asking if there's any other questions, but really good questions.
It's not really all that related, but like if somebody were to look for a letter using a capital case letter, would that work or would it bring back an error?
You tell me. What do you think? Take a guess, and then we'll see. So if we we run count occurrences, and the word is Victor, and we type in a lowercase v, what do you think reading this logic?
I think it would be an error. Or it wouldn't count, I think, maybe?
Wouldn't count. So the count would be?
Would be 0, yeah.
Yeah. Because right here, little v is not triple equal to big V. It's a different character. But you certainly could do something to make, what could you do? Yeah, you could manipulate that to make it case insensitive.
Would it be like a word equal to word dot to lowercase?
Yeah, right here you could. Well, you could do this where you make them both dot to lowercase. Or was somebody telling me this gave them problems?
I think David was saying something about that, but
let's try.
Wouldn't I don't think we'd want it here and where you're putting it at, because I think that when you do the alert, it's gonna transform it, right? Like what
that's
they're
a good
entering
point.
is not gonna be it.
Yeah,
So I would probably put it in the on line 28. You could probably put it word index I to lowercase.
To locale lowercase what?
Yeah. So you're basically telling it right here, you're going to compare this to lowercase to letter dot to lowercase. And I think that's probably a better location.
Yeah, you're right. That is a better user experience. So count occurrences, capital D David, but then lowercase d. Oh yeah, 2 times. Yeah. But maybe you don't want that. That's just a design decision. That's not like a right answer situation.
But if you put the 2 lowercase in there, if you still put the big D for the David, it's still showing, right?
Yeah, it's still counting, the big D.
Okay.
Because big D will be converted to little d, and then little d will be converted to little d, and those two are equal.
Okay, thank you.
Case wouldn't affect it if, like, let's say someone put in like a leet word that uses like symbols and numbers. Would it affect those or wouldn't do anything?
No. I think it ignores it if it's like a octothorpe.
Okay.
Okay.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
On the very top, you have a plus before the prompt. Is that just because it's a mathematical thing?
No, this is the default data type when we're getting user input is always going to be a string. So this is equivalent to converting the string to a number data type because we want it to be a number so we can compare it. Oh, am I doing it in the wrong? Oh, no. Yeah, right here.
No,
So we're
you're
just converting data type
first
from
name.
string to number.
Oh no, sorry. What is it? Oh, sorry.
So you put a plus if you just need it to be a number.
Yeah, if you have a string and you want it to convert it to a number, you just shorthand can just put the plus operator right before it. Or if you forget that, it's kind of easier to remember just this big capital N number you can use as well. It's equivalent. Other questions? Okay, I think we're unfortunately out of time for remove duplicates. But there is one thing I do need to show you so you can complete the project today. So what do I want to do? Let me comment this out for right now. And run this. And then there's a built-in method to generate random numbers in JavaScript. So if we want a random number between 1 and 100, we can use a method called math.random. Did I give you guys pre-work on math.random? Yes? Okay, so what does math.random do? What does it output?
So
yeah, go ahead.
It gives you numbers between 0 and 1 randomly.
A number between 0 and 1. But not inclusive of the 1, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's look at that a bunch of times. So in the console, we got 0.46, blah, blah, blah. I save it again, 0.33. And you're like, maybe you're like, well, that's not very helpful. I want a random number between 1 and 100. So what do we have to do to get a random number between 1 and 100 using math.random?
You multiply by 100.
Yeah, so now we can take this decimal number between 0 and 1 and times it by 100. But now you're like, I don't want a decimal number, right? I just want a number between 1 and 100. So what else should we do?
You should use floor.
Ceiling.
I want to use ceiling actually, but so why do I want to use ceiling in this example?
It's gonna round it up.
Yeah, because I said 1 in 100. So I don't actually ever want 0. And I do sometimes want 100, the number 100. So I want to round it up. And now we have a number between 1 and 100, inclusive of both 1 and 100. So this is going to be very useful in a lot of applications in a lot of different ways for in games for selecting a random option. Yeah, it's very useful in a lot of ways. Questions on math.random? All right, guys. Let's get you into breakout rooms.